Attachment looks at studying the bond that develops between infants and their caregivers. And there have been a lot of different studies to look at different aspects of that. So, um, one of the things that Konrad Lorenz looked at was what was called a critical period. And specifically, he was looking for what happens if somebody gives birth and then, for whatever reason, they're maybe separated from their child for any period of time. Maybe it's like medical reasons or something like that. So a lot of times caregivers would freak out, right? And be like, my baby's not going to know me. I have to be around my baby right away. How will they know that I'm their parent? So anyway, he looked at that. He studied critical periods, meaning, is there a time period during which you have to develop an attachment or that attachment won't occur? And so what Konrad Lorenz did was he actually ended up um, developing what I would call a really unhealthy attachment with geese. So we're going to watch a really uncomfortable Konrad Lorenz video quick. And then you're just going to kind of look at the unhealthy attachment that develops here. I think adding in this music adds just a little something. Really makes you feel like he loves his geese. All right, so for real though, he didn't develop an unhealthy attachment with geese, but I love that video because it adds, a little intensity to his study. The Konrad Lorenz geese study looked at imprinting. So I want you to think of right now what famous movie series is there imprinting? The answer is Twilight. Yes, so they talk about imprinting in that. What we know about imprinting is that imprinting is not true of humans, which means that there is no critical period for human attachment. So you can form an attachment with your caregiver at any time, which is obviously really good news for humans. We know that that's not true with some other animals. They will imprint on whoever is around them immediately, and they will look to them as their caregiver. The second study looked at a totally different piece in terms of concerns that humans have, and this is why is there typically an attachment between maybe one parent and not another parent? So if the mother gives birth to a child and then she has like this really strong attachment, a lot of times the fathers or other partners would say, well, she just has a stronger attachment because she feeds him or her, and I'm not in charge of feeding the baby, so I can't form the same attachment. So the Harlows, which is a famous study out of UW-Madison actually, they conducted a monkey study, and they were basically looking at what is the reason why, monkeys, but then obviously they're looking to make that fit humans as well. But what is the reason why they would form
Harlow
attachments?
designs a set of ingenious experiments. He raises a baby monkey, allowing it to choose between two surrogate mothers, a wire mother that feeds it, and a cloth mother that doesn't. A cloth mother that Harlow thinks might provide something else, comfort and love.
Here's baby 106, weaned on a wire mother. He's going to the wire mother.
But this infant quickly runs to the cloth mother, where he will stay for the next 18 hours cuddling. In Harlow's mind, choosing nurturing over sustenance. In another experiment, Harlow creates a fearful situation. Whom does the infant turn to now?
Let's find out what his reactions to his mother are when we frighten him. He's scared, all right. And he does what any child will do in a similar situation. He was running to his mother, to touch her, to drive away his fear.
All right, so I know that that's sad, but really great research from the Harlows on this. So what we know from the Harlow research studies are that babies do not form attachments due to nourishment. They actually form attachments due to contact comfort or body contact. So those are like key phrases that you need to know about the Harlow monkey study. So what does that tell us? And if you guys think about it even in your own lives, basically what it says is you're not going to have like a really strong attachment to the person who's maybe just feeding you or just giving you money to survive or something like that. The attachment is actually more of an emotional bond, an emotional attachment. So you can form that with any caregiver, and you can really form it at any time when we combined the Lorenz research and the Harlow research. So those are two really big ones. The final really big study related to attachment is Mary Ainsworth. I always think of like Ainsworth and then attachment starts with an A. There's just going to be so many people that you have to know with development. So Mary Ainsworth was actually looking at how to test the type or strength of an attachment that a child has to their caregiver. So what she did was she devised something called the strange situation. And in the strange situation, she would basically like bring a child and their mother into a situation where they were in a room. And then at some point she would introduce a stranger. The mother will leave, and then they'll be looking at how does the child interact with the stranger. But what they're actually studying, and this is important in case you ever had to write about it, is what's called the reunion. They're looking at what happens to the baby when the mother returns to the room. So again, we're going to watch part of this study so that you have a visual that hopefully helps you understand.
But can the essential elements of home life be translated into a standard laboratory setting for controlled scientific study? After conducting extensive observations of parents and children at home, a student of Bowlby's, Mary Ainsworth, devised such a procedure called the strange situation, which places the child under some stress. It has become the most widely used standardized way to assess the quality of a child's attachment to their caregiver. Here the researchers are recording how 14-month-old Lisa responds in this attractive but unfamiliar setting. How will she react to a stranger? What will happen when her mother leaves the room? And when she returns? It's Lisa's behavior when her mother returns, what psychologists call the reunion, that they are particularly interested in.
Most importantly is to look for the type of balance that a child strikes between an attachment need and, on the other hand, to explore the play material.
Once Lisa has settled down to play, a stranger enters the room and sits in the chair reading a magazine.
Lisa, where's the bow? Where's the bow?
After a couple of minutes, the stranger attempts to interact with Lisa. Soon after, Lisbeth gets a cue to leave the room. The stranger tries to comfort Lisa, but in vain. Lisbeth comes back into the room and the camera records how Lisa reacts. Now the first part of the procedure is over, and
All right, so they're basically just going to keep repeating that. They're going to look at the first reunion and the second reunion to try to determine what type of attachment style the child has. So from that, they derive sort of like 3 attachment styles. The first one is secure. The other 2 are known as insecure, but they do have specific titles. So with a secure attachment, the infant is like upset when the mom leaves, but then when the mom comes back, they can be pretty quickly and easily calmed down. Okay, what that does is it shows that they are more attached to the parent than to the stranger. The anxious ambivalent attachment is a little bit different. So again, the baby's like upset when the mom leaves, but when the mom returns, the mom isn't able to calm them down. So they're sort of like resistant to that relationship. So again, that would be a type of insecure attachment. And then finally, avoidant. And avoidant is interesting as well because the child might not be overly upset when their mom leaves, and when the mom comes back, they're like sort of not all that concerned about the mom even returning. So again, you're like, well, that kind of sounds cool because my baby can just like exist on their own. But as a parent, that might be difficult because your child is not really showing any sort of attachment to you that's greater than anyone else. So again, Mary Ainsworth, strange situation. You have to know the general idea. You have to understand the reunion, and then secure, anxious, ambivalent, and avoid.